Are we growing or shrinking as a state? Good morning, Springfield's Morning News. I'm Greg Bishop on 92.7 WMAY, Springfield's News and Talk, and I want to hear from you at 217-629-7970. Do you know people who've moved out? Who are they? Are they your parents? Are they your friends? Are they your coworkers after your job was lost because it shut down and moved to another state? I want to hear from you. 217-629-7970. Now, before the Christmas holiday, as is the case every year, the U.S. Census releases yearly estimates of state populations. And for a ninth consecutive year, Illinois estimated losing population to the tune of a population difference of 104,000 in the most recent estimate for the year that ended July 1st of 2022. But when you look at all of the numbers, births versus deaths versus people moving into the state versus people moving out of the state, we actually lost 110,000 people on net, according to the U.S. Census estimates. Now, a little bit of background. You have Democrats at the statehouse and even Democrats from Illinois in the U.S. Congress asking the U.S. Census to revise Illinois' numbers upwards. Despite the state losing a seat in Congress because of population decline, they say that it's a error that the U.S. Census acknowledged undercounting Illinois by 2%, but that did not change the official population of Illinois. It's still at about 12.7 some odd million people. So I want to hear from you at 217-629-7970. Are we losing population or are we growing, as some Democrats insist we are? We'll hear from both sides of the aisle here coming up in a moment. But first, your calls. Good morning. You're on WMAY.
Are we growing as?
Well, I think the problem is we're getting people that are vital that are moving out. We're getting people in that they come in for the welfare benefits, and they're really not. They're not really the type of people you want to have in your state to make her prosperous. That's the problem with Illinois.
We do.
Our welfare
and to kind of back that up a bit, the U.S. Census last month did also release updated poverty rates. And Illinois, the poverty rate, after several years of decline, ticked upwards from, I think, like 11.3% to about 12.1% or something. I don't quote me on that exact number, but regardless, the poverty rate increased. While we see continued decline in population, that means that those of us sticking around in Illinois are paying more for those who need government services. So again, the question, are we growing or are we shrinking? So the U.S. Census released their annual estimates showing 9 consecutive years of annual decreases in Illinois. Illinois is along with New York and California that are losing population in droves, according to the estimates. Texas, Florida, and several other states growing in population, while Illinois, New York, California losing population quite a bit, actually. So that's not the only numbers that come out every year. We also have numbers from U-Haul that show Illinois is leading the nation behind only California for one-way trucks moving out of the state of Illinois. So that report came out yesterday. With that, and with the census numbers before Christmas, I was at the State House yesterday connecting with various lawmakers, and I talked with Democratic State Representative Rita Mayfield from Waukegan, and I asked her what she's experiencing when it comes to population decline. Here's what she had to say yesterday.
Well, there's a lot of reasons for population.
Okay, well, there's a lot of reasons for population loss. Our senior citizens, they're migrating to warmer climates. They're migrating to places where they get more bang for their tax buck. I believe that if we could pass some type of tax reform that could benefit our seniors a little bit better so that we're not taxing them out of their homes, they would stay here. They would absolutely stay here. I know that's a conversation that I have a lot. We're losing a lot of our youth to colleges out of state who are offering better rates than what we are. So I know that there's been a lot of bills that have been floated to offer free tuition. I believe even at the junior level, we should be offering some type of free tuition, some type of incentive to keep our youth here, because that is part of where we're losing. And we lost a lot of our immigrants as well, just because of transition. I know senior citizens who have moved to Florida. They've moved to warmer climates, but a lot of them have basically stated, hey, I'd stay here if my taxes could get reduced a little bit further. So I do think we need to provide some type of property tax relief for our seniors so that we can keep them in their homes and keep them in the state. I've been working on those for years. There is an appetite on both sides of the aisle, for some type of tax reform. So I know there's a lot of things that are being floated, and I'm hoping that in this upcoming General Assembly that we will be able to address some of the tax issues.
So that's Rita Mayfield, a Democrat from Waukegan, acknowledging that she sees population decline, that the numbers she sees, and even anecdotally, that seniors are leaving her community to go to warmer climates, but also saying that they need tax relief. So that's a Democrat acknowledging that we have population decline in the state of Illinois. I talked with Adam Niemerg. He is a Republican from downstate Illinois, and he acknowledges that we've got population decline. Here's some of what he had to say yesterday when we connected just briefly to get his take on what's happening with population loss in the state of Illinois.
Well, I think we obviously have population decline in the state of Illinois. When you look at the numbers, when you look at the exodus, when you look at opportunity, it's depleting from the state of Illinois. And you look at other states like Florida, Texas, Mississippi, they're all growing. But here in the state of Illinois, there's a lack of opportunity.
How do we reverse all that?
Better public policy, lower taxes, and give businesses a reason to open here in the state of Illinois. Well, I'm seeing a lot of help wanted signs. I'm seeing a lot of folks that are looking for opportunity. They're looking for people to come in, are looking for people to come in and work for them, but they're not seeing it because a lot of folks are leaving the state of Illinois, whether it be for economic reasons, whether it be for cultural reasons because of the decline here in the state of Illinois, but we are seeing it.
So what about you? What are you seeing? Are you having friends leave? Are you having family leave? Is your job packing up and moving elsewhere? 217-629-7970. That's the phone number here with Springfield's Morning News on 92.7 WMAY, Springfield's News and Talk, and much more coming up. All right, we're talking about population decline, and we've been getting some of your calls, and you can call in at 217-629-7970. You can also email bishoponair@gmail.com. Don't forget, you can follow me on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. Just search Bishop on Air and connect with me that way. We live stream each and every weekday morning by the hour from 6 to 9. So you can tune in there or listen to us in Central Illinois on 92.7 FM. All right, so talked with Democrats and Republicans about population decline. We heard Democratic State Representative Rita Mayfield acknowledge that we do have population decline. Adam Niemerg, a downstate Republican, said, yeah, we have population decline. But I asked State Senator Steve Stadelman, he is a Democrat from Rockford, as to what his thoughts are of our estimated population decline. And he pushed back a bit, saying that it's a false premise. Here is Steve Stadelman reacting to my question yesterday at the Illinois Statehouse.
Well, I think the premise isn't necessarily accurate. There was a Census Bureau account a couple years ago, and they made an adjustment. And Illinois is one of 6 or 7 states where they made the adjustment and found out that the population was undercounted by 2%. That 2% would be roughly 250,000 people. So if you want to believe the Census Bureau and their count and the adjustment they made last year, Illinois would be gaining a population of 250,000 between 2010 and 2020. So it depends what facts and figures you want to look at when you're trying to frame this argument as far as whether the state is losing population or not.
So the estimates, though, show that we have lost 104,000.
But those are estimates. That depends on certain data, and I can't specifically know what the data is, but they take the data, they're not a count, but they speculate from that data that they acquire and what the estimates are. But as we saw between 2010 and 2020, there were estimates over a number of years, you said 8 or 9 years, that showed us losing population. So if those estimates had been accurate, we would have had a population loss of 500,000 people. But it turned out the census count and the adjustment showed we actually gained people. So depends what you want to look at. Do you want to look at the estimates or do you want to look at the actual count? So if you want to base it solely on estimates, the estimates between the years 2010 and 2020 were not accurate.
And then today, the U-Haul just put out another report saying that Illinois was 49th out of 50.
Well, Illinois is a big state. I'm not going to sit and argue facts and figures, and you know, you're dealing with estimates and projections. So who's right, who's wrong? It just depends on what data you want to look at and how you want to try to manipulate data for a political agenda.
So do you think anything needs to be done to address?
We should always make sure we're attracted to business. We want to make sure we're doing everything possible to attract people to the state. But I think some of the narratives that we're hearing based on estimates aren't accurate. We need to continue making this an attractive state, but I think people need to make sure that they're looking at the facts and figures as far as where we're at in the situation.
So that's Steve Stottleman, a Democrat from Rockford, seeming to push back, saying that we're not losing population and that we're actually growing. And he pointed to that 2% undercount that the census claims, but that didn't change the state's population on the official U.S. Census page. We also still lost a seat in Congress because of population loss over the past 10 years. 217-629-7970. We'll hear from State Representative Tony McCombie in a moment, but I want to get your calls. Good morning. You're on WMAY.
Hey, Greg, maybe next time ask him how many people are actually paying tax. How many are actually paying taxes? That's what they need to know. So they would know at the Illinois Department of Revenue how many people are actually filling out taxes and how many are paying. Is that growing or is that declining?
Well, and that's another number that we won't necessarily get from the Illinois Department of Revenue. We will get IRS data, Internal Revenue Service data. They release those numbers every year as well. That indicates where people are moving, and that number as well, year after year after year, has shown Illinois losing population. And what's interesting about those numbers when they come out, we'll definitely be talking about it when they come out, is it shows not just the number of people moving, but how much wealth is moving out of the state as well. And that's a pretty interesting number. Appreciate the call. Let's hear from the incoming House Minority Leader, Tony McCombie, at the Illinois State House. I asked her about population decline, and here's what she had to say about the state's position in population across the state.
Well, we're definitely losing population. As you're aware, I live in northwest Illinois, the corner right there. I've got Wisconsin to the north, about 20 minutes, and I'm right on the Mississippi River, so Iowa. We hear and see folks leaving all of the time. So you're definitely seeing it in our rural areas, but now people are starting to take notice because people are leaving Chicago and going to the suburbs, or they're going to other states, and that's where you're seeing our out-migration. So Illinois is certainly placed in one of the best avenues for being in the Midwest. We have rail, we have boat, we have great transportation, and here we are because of policies that we pass, high taxes, high workers' comp, and continue to pass policy, even as simple as minimum wage. That comes at a cost. Yeah, we might be getting a higher wage, but that being said, how do you pay for that? The cost of services and goods have to go up. So definitely the numbers are not lying. We are losing people. There's no ifs, ands, buts about that. And the sooner we admit that and start tackling the policies for the reason, then we're going to see some positive changes.
What's your reaction to those who deny that we're losing population? Because there were Democratic leaders, even Senator Durbin, writing the census last year saying, hey, revise us upwards. They never did. And it's still 12.6 million, not 12.8 million or whatever. But what do you say to those who are still denying that we're losing population?
Well, I guess I would say follow the science.
So the incoming House Minority Leader urging the Democrats to, quote, follow the science when it comes to the estimates of population decline. We're not going to hear the last of this. Again, 9 consecutive years of estimated population decline. We lost a seat in Congress. So we'll obviously see what other numbers come out. It's not just the U-Haul data that was released yesterday as well, showing Illinois leading in one-way trucks moving out. We likely will see similar types of data released by the Internal Revenue Service on migration out of Illinois when it comes to taxpayers and filings. So a lot more to come on this. One last call here before the break. Good morning. You're on WMAY.
I've noticed too, and I read it, and I've heard this in the media. The minority and a lot of the immigrant professionals in this country are leaving. I mean, in the state are leaving because they it's not a good place to do business.
We have higher workers' comp costs than some of our neighboring states. We have higher taxes, property taxes, and you got to imagine for a large base like a manufacturer, that's a lot of property that they have to hold. But there's a whole bunch of factors. And listen, it's not just all of that. There's also questions of the culture in Illinois. A lot of people downstate don't like Chicago dictating what the policies are going to be. For instance, you got how schools and the curriculum they have to use, the sex ed requirements, the prospect of a ban on certain types of guns, and so on. So there's a lot of factors that all play together in this ongoing story. Appreciate the calls, everybody. You can always follow on WMAY.com or Bishop on Air's Facebook page, Twitter, and so on. Connect with us that way. But also, if you like seeing what's going on here, you can subscribe on YouTube as well. Just search Bishop on Air. All right, it is Springfield's Morning News on WMAY.